my name is Heather Shoemaker, and I'm going to show you the Language I/O integration with Salesforce that allows you to use the XTM translation platform to translate your Salesforce article content. So to begin with, let's go ahead and submit an article for translation. Using our app, you can select many articles at once or just one article at a time, which is what we're going to do today, and then hit the Submit for Translation button. This button is going to bring up a little dialog that allows you to select languages. You can select many or just a few. For this demo, again, we're going to keep it simple and just select one language, Spanish. And the key to using the Language I/O app is to assign the translation to the Language I/O queue. So we've done that, and we will go ahead and hit OK. And what Salesforce does at this point is it generates draft articles that we can see sitting inside the Language I/O queue. So if we go there, we'll see a single Spanish article, draft version, how to record an audio note. Now that that's sitting there in the queue, we can go ahead and launch the Language I/O app for XTM and Salesforce. We're going to name the project. Let's call it November Updates. And we select the queue we just generated the draft article into. Now, there are two queues that we can specify, the pull queue and the push queue. The pull queue is where the content is pulled for translation in XTM. And when the translation is completed, it's going to be pushed directly into your push queue. Now, if you would prefer to have Language I/O automatically publish the content, you can go ahead and select Publish, and the push queue doesn't matter. But most of our customers prefer to be the ones to publish it themselves, so often the push queue is used. And it can be the same as the pull queue. So we've gone ahead and entered all the data that's required, so I'm going to click on Request Translation of Queue. And at this point, any draft articles sitting in that queue are read by the Language I/O app. The English content is pushed into XTM, in this case for translation, and Language I/O records the draft ID so it knows where to push the translated version when it's ready. So it looks like it was a successful submission, and at this point what we need to do is jump over to XTM and see what's going on over there. So I'm already logged into XTM as a linguist, and what's going to show up in my tasks area are any article content that I need to translate. So let me go ahead and reload my tasks view, and what we're going to see are all of the pieces of this Salesforce article that have been flagged as translatable. So this Salesforce article type is kind of a question and answer type. So you're seeing an answer piece, a keywords piece, a question piece, summary, and title, both of which are standard fields in Salesforce. So as a Spanish linguist, what I'm going to do is first I'm going to open up all of the elements of this article that I can view in the visual editor. Now, the way it works is anything that is rich text or of type HTML in Salesforce can be viewed in the visual editor inside of XTM. And the visual editor is great because it gives you this context as a linguist, so you can see how on the English side the content is formatted and make sure that matches on the Spanish side in this case, or any language. What I've done with this XTM template is had the template automatically machine translate the content, so this demo will go more quickly. One thing I'd like to point out is that in the English article you'll see a screenshot of the product UI to help users navigate through recording of an audio note, and the labels in the screenshot are referenced throughout the content. On the Spanish side, where the linguist is translating content, you'll see that the screenshot is still in English. Before Language I/O pushes this translated content back into Salesforce, it will implement rules that rewrite the underlying image tag. So instead of pulling in an English screenshot into the Spanish content, it's going to pull in a Spanish localized version of the screenshot. And similar rules can be applied to rewrite links to the corporate website. If you have a Spanish version of your corporate website, rules can be applied to rewrite links to related articles that might be embedded in the content. So the Spanish version links out to related Spanish articles instead of English articles. All right, so once the linguist has completed translation in the visual editor of this piece of the article, we will go ahead and finish the task. XTM will automatically pull in the next piece of the article that can be translated in the visual editor. I believe there are two of those. This one is the question piece. It's been machine translated in the interest of time. We will finish this task as well. Looks like all of the pieces of this article that can be processed in the visual editor are done. Now what we're going to do is translate the remaining pieces of the article in the standard XTM editor. And again, these are pieces of the article that are not HTML content, and hence we can't translate them in the visual editor. Looks like this one has already been machine translated. We will finish this task. The full translated project won't actually be pushed back into Salesforce until all pieces of it are completed. We will finish this one, and then there will be one more to go. Looks like the machine translation engine didn't like this one, so we'll go ahead and manually translate it. All right, so once we finish this task, all pieces of the article are now translated. Nothing is left in our tasks queue as a linguist, and XTM is now processing the project and calling back the Language.io APIs so it can push the full project through the Language.io server and back into Salesforce. Right, now that we have completed our translation tasks, I've jumped back into Salesforce and I'm looking at the Language.io queue where we configured the app to push the translated article. And as you can see, we've got a translated article here, and if we look at it, clicking on article number, we will see that all of the translatable fields within this article type have been pushed right back into Salesforce. We've got the title, the summary, the question, and the answer. And even better, in addition to the translated content, we can also see that this screenshot has been localized into Spanish. The rules I mentioned earlier that allow Language.io to rewrite links in the article have been implemented so that instead of pulling in the original English screenshot, this article is now pulling in the Spanish localized version of the screenshot. We can also do similar link rewriting automatically for links out to your corporate website. If you have a localized version of your website, we will automatically rewrite links to related articles that might be embedded in the content. So instead of linking out to an English related article, we link out to a Spanish related article. And lastly, once you're happy with the translation, you could just go ahead and publish it right here in Salesforce so it goes live for your Spanish speaking audience. And that concludes my demo. Thank you so much for your interest in the Language.io integration for Salesforce and XTM.